Hi there, this is David, and welcome to New RPG News. We have a lot of stuff to talk about today, from Persona and Atlas, to a really cool new turn-based RPG, to some Super Mario Remake news, to a console war between Xbox and Sony, to Final Fantasy 16, to Trails, and then to the death of Zelda. Yes. So, let's go ahead and get started here with some good news. The Atlas fiscal year ended in March, and the reports are showing strong business performance. We saw last time that the Atelier series is doing fantastically, that Final Fantasy 16 sold 3 million copies within its first week, that RPGs really are on the upswing, and Atlas here is one of my favorite developers of all time. They've been around for like ever, and they always sell really good games. So in the last year, they released 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim, Soul Hackers 2, as well as Persona 3, 4, and 5, those remasters. So we all know that the Persona remasters, like, they're gonna sell like hotcakes, like duh. And 13 Sentinels was kind of like a hidden gem. I didn't really like it, but a lot of other people did. But, you know, to me it was visual novel-y, and I don't do visual novels. Soul Hackers 2 was but, you know, Persona, those are gonna sell no matter what. So it says that they really did help Sega's bottom line. So this to me says, you know what, JRPGs are in a good state right now. And most importantly, at least to me, it says that one of the biggest things that they do want to continue focusing on is continued physical game sales. Yeah, as a lot of other developers are moving towards digital sales, Atlas is still sticking with those physicals, and I am super happy about that. It says that Persona 5 Royal Remastered sold 1.7 million copies, and the Persona 5 series as a whole sold over 9 million copies worldwide. That is a ton, so good on them. Then, in more Persona news, we have a new trailer, which I'm showing above me, of Persona 3 Reload, that is the remake. That doesn't include portable or Fez stuff, but we also have a first look at the English voiceover cast, and I apologize in advance as I'm going to butcher these names. We have Heather Gonzalez, who is voicing Yukari, Alejandro Saab voicing Akihiko, Susie Young voicing Fuka, Zeno Robinson voicing Junpei? I don't know. Alex Lee voicing the protagonist, and Allegra Clark voicing Mitsuru. So I think that this is interesting here because there was this whole kerfluffle lately about Eternites on my channel on the last video, in yesterday's video, about, you know, actually having the audacity of having a gay option in Eternites to romance. Oh my god, the humanity! I know. But the gay option is actually going to be voiced by Alex Lee, who is voicing the protagonist from Persona 3. So I think that that's just really cool. So if you're looking forward to this game, and I've said this before, I'm going to say it again, because I do think that it does bear repeating. Persona 3 Fez was my first introduction to the Persona series, and I did enjoy it. I didn't buy Persona 3 Vanilla, and it always seems that there's always, like, you have your regular edition, and then you have your enhanced edition whenever it comes to Persona. And then, just this year, as we just saw, they just put out a remaster of Persona 3. And now they're putting out Persona 3 Reload, which is a remake of the first Persona, but it doesn't include the PSP stuff or the Fez stuff. Well, it includes some of it, but not all of it. So I just have to wonder, like, are they going to put out a Persona 3 Reload Royal? You know what I mean? So I personally would wait on this if I was y'all. It's going to be coming out for the PS4, PS5, Xbox, and PC early 2024 worldwide. Are y'all ready for this? Get ready. Dungeon RPG Mon You defeat monsters and gain strong weapons and armor. You may be defeated, but don't give up, become stronger. I believe there will be a day when the heroes defeat the Devil King is coming out for the PS5, Switch, PC on September 21st in the West. Like, who names these games? Like, what the hell? Like, this is stupid. Anyway, this is a first-person dungeon crawling RPG, and normally I don't really play these type of games. I got burned on them in the past, like Eye of the Beholder and those god-awful like wizardry games back on the NES and SNES and like So I didn't really like these games and I got burned at Blockbuster more than once, so I've really avoided them. The only thing that really turned it around for me, though, was Etrian Odyssey. I really did enjoy the Etrian Odyssey games. So this looks to be somewhat in that vein. It says that it has an emphasis on character creation, party optimization, and good old-fashioned turn-based combat. It celebrates the pioneering RPGs from the earliest days of video games, featuring a plethora of adorable character portraits, tons of weapons and armor, and flexibility in skill point allocation so players can tweak their lineup to their heart's content. There's also an option to speed up combat so clearing dungeons never feels like a grind. Something strange to me, it says that you can choose from 8 different character classes, but if you look over here at the picture, there's 6 party members in your party. So if you can have 6 people in your party, why are there only 8 character classes? Like, that just seems odd. A nice accessibility option, there are 3 different playstyles: carefree, standard, and challenging. So if this seems up your alley and you like these first-person dungeon-crawling turn-based RPGs, be sure to check this one out. One of my most anticipated games is Sandland. This is by Bandai Namco, and it's by the same team that did One Piece Odyssey, which is essentially the Dragon Quest XI team. And if you know anything about me, you know that I love me some Dragon Quest. So yeah, like, I could wish that it wasn't, you know, in a desert. Like, it would be nicer if it was like icy or foresty or like pretty. Like, desert really doesn't do it for me, but whatevs. This looks like Metal Max meets Dragon Quest, and I am here for it. We're going to be getting some more information between July 20th and 23rd because they are releasing a gameplay movie as well as a playable demo there at the San Diego Comic-Con. So if you're going to the Comic-Con or you live in San Diego and you get your hands on this, I would love to hear what you think about it because it just looks really sweet to me. Like, I can't wait. You have some footage of the tank there, the little jump bot. It just looks cool. It just looks cool. Anything that the Dragon Quest team gets their hands on, I am all about. We don't have a release date yet for this. It is coming out for the PS4, PS5, Xbox, and PC, though. Super Mario RPG has some new screenshots. We've seen the trailer so far, which is right above me, but now we actually get to look at some cool screenshots. And every time that you look at these screenshots, you have to, like, reload the article, which is obnoxious, but whatever. Here we have a picture of Bowser's Castle with like Smithy inside of it. Here's a picture of Mario riding the Yoshis over at Yoster's Isle where Frogfucius is. This is Beatlemania, that little Game Boy game that the kid is playing, I think in like Mole Town. And you shoot up these little stars and you like bounce off these red shells and stuff. I had a fun time playing that as a kid. I loved that. Here we have a scene of the battle scene. He's hitting the Goomba. But over here, this is new. This wasn't in the original game. This 78% meter right there. That to me tells me that there's a new addition of the battle system, because here you can see him hitting the Goomba, and now it's gone up to 80%. Maybe that's like a limit break or something else like that. Super powerful attacks. Who knows? Here's whenever Mario and Mallow meet Geno, and then they get the green star. Another battle scene. This is with Bowser joining the party right there. Looks like there's chained attacks as well, so maybe that's like a chain booster or something. Like, Mario RPG introduced timed hits. It was like the first RPG that actually had timed hits, but you could only hit like so many times with various weapons. Maybe now you can hit more times in the battle system. Like, I don't know. Like, that's a lot of damage right there. 300 damage, 58 damage, 77 damage. This game kind of kept numbers low, so that is quite a bit of damage for this game, and 4 chains, it says right there. Here's another one. He's the Hammer Brothers are throwing hammers at Mario right there. Let's see what else we got going on here. Oh, this is fighting those little, I don't know, clown twins or whatever over in Booster's Tower. That's cute. Looks like Geno's doing maybe Geno Rain or something there. And then bouncing off the barrels. I think it was like Mary Falls or something? Mary Mac Falls or something like that. I don't know. It's been a minute since I played Mario RPG, but it's such a good game! Well, I guess this is a case of you snooze, you lose, and I'm kind of pissed. I found this yesterday. It was on Amazon and I found this yesterday and it was in stock for $49.99. Now I click on it today and it's out of stock. Lovely. Anyway, this is Silent Hope Day 1 Edition. This was announced at the Xseed Showcase, Marvelous Games, all that kind of stuff. And it looks like it's like a dungeon crawling RPG. And their Day 1 Edition is freaking sweet! Just like their Day 1 Edition was for like Trinity Trigger and Loop 8, which I did pick up because they're just so freaking cool. And it's for $50. Like, that's the price of a normal game, you know what I mean? And you get all this cool stuff. So you get this nice, beautiful box, the game, of course, an art book, as well as an original soundtrack. And I feel like if Square Enix was selling this, it would be like $200, but it's Xseed, so they'll sell it to you for $50. You know what I'm saying? And, but it's out of stock! No! Next time I see this, I'm gonna keep my eye on this. Next time I see this, number one, I'm gonna buy it. And then number two, I'm gonna let y'all know that it is in stock, so that all y'all can buy it as well. Well, how very interesting. If you've been following gaming news at all, I haven't really covered it here, because it's not really my thing. But Microsoft and Sony are kind of in like a little war going on. Microsoft is essentially saying, hey, we're in third place, you know, oh, woe is me, poor me. And they're going to court and they're trying to purchase Activision Blizzard. But then they're also saying like this is an antitrust thing, you know, you don't want them to get too much of the market share, all that. So it is stuck in court right now. And funnily enough, Microsoft is saying like, hey, we're in third place. There's a whole other competitor, which is Nintendo. And then the courts are saying, no, Nintendo does not compete with Sony and Microsoft. Y'all are on your own. Nintendo is on its own little island. They have their own market. Whereas, you know, the little twins over here are competing with themselves. And I can kind of see where the court's coming from there. But out of this court case, some information has emerged. Most notably, that it says here that, let's see, PlayStation sells a less expensive digital edition at $400 and is expected to release a PlayStation 5 Slim later on this year at the same reduced price point, which would not be digital only. It would just be a smaller version, probably with less storage space and, you know, things like that, kind of like the Slim editions that we've seen for previous PlayStation consoles. The bombshells continue, with Microsoft saying further down that Sony is also anticipated to release a handheld version of PS5 later this year for under $300. This is in relation to Sony's announced Project Q, a handheld gaming stream device that wirelessly connects to the PS5, but Sony has yet to announce a release date or a price. This whole thing to me just comes off as like whining. Like Microsoft is like, oh no, you know, we don't release any games on our systems at all. Oh no, we don't invest in third-party developers. Oh no, poor us. You know, like, give me a fucking break. This whole thing just puts a bad taste in my mouth. But, you know, on a positive note, if you don't have a PS5 yet, you can buy one on the cheap later on this year. In news that nobody ever saw coming, Final Fantasy XVI's Japan sales dropped the second week after launch. So we knew last week, I reported, that 16 sold 3 million copies, which is a pretty respectable number. However, that number has now dropped to roughly 37,000, which is almost 90% drop in sales, at least physically, because that figure does not include digital downloads. All that being said, you still might think, okay, you know, 3 million, that's a whole lot. However, it says here, this is a much slower pace than its predecessor, which hit 5 million copies on release day alone. So yeah, this is only selling 3 million copies, 15 sold 5 million copies in one day. To me, this is kind of, you know, obvious. Something like this, like, you have two mindsets here with a game like this. And the mindsets are either, oh my gosh, this game is gonna be fantastic, I have to have it on day one. The second mindset is, I don't know, I'll kind of wait and see. We'll see how the reviews pan out, and then if I might as well wait, might as well also get it on sale for like $30 instead of 60. So there really is no in-between in that regard, and I think that that is what is happening here. However, this little quote down here is kind of everything to me. It says, "Everything in 16 is just so different from the previous Final Fantasy games that fans loved. Even when taking into account the number of people who might have purchased the game digitally, the sales figures are low. It would be difficult to sell more without a deep price cut." Huh, you think? Maybe if you take a game series that's been around since the 80s and you can make it do a complete 180, then the fans might say, I don't know about this, might have to take a wait and see approach. So to me, this just kind of seems like, you reap what you sow. But maybe, on the bright side, Final Fantasy 17 might go into turn-based battles, might go into 2D, maybe world maps, maybe a much more traditional Final Fantasy. I completely doubt it, but maybe. Speaking of Final Fantasy 16, we have a new update. It fixes some issues and adds some new functionality. The biggest issue that it fixed was this motion blur thing. I personally did not notice it, and I honestly don't really even know what motion blur is. Like, I don't keep up with like the whole technical side of games and computers and stuff. I'm not very tech savvy. I am not very computer savvy. Like, I turn on a game, and if it's fun, that's my bottom line. As long as a game is fun, that's all I really care about. I don't really care about anything else. That's how I judge games, that's how I review games. If a game isn't fun, it gets a bad review. If a game is fun, it gets a good review. If it has 30 frames per second, I honestly don't even notice. Like, give me a break, I don't care. So, this is just me. But anyway, a lot of people were complaining about this motion blur strength. And it says it allows the player to adjust the strength of a motion blur effect whenever the character or camera is in motion. The default setting is the maximum of 5, but it can be lowered to reduce the strength of the blur effect, or set to 0 to turn it off completely, which is really good because I want more people to be able to play this game, to experience this game, and if turning that off allows more people to have access to it, I do think that that is a good thing. It also adds 3 new controller layouts, and it corrected some minor text issues and menu issues and things like that. We have a reconfirmation that Final Fantasy IX Remake is in development at Square Enix. It is happening. I know that this is like the worst kept secret in the history of gaming. We've known about this secret for 2 years now since the Nvidia leak. Everything else came to fruition. We're only still waiting on the 9 remake and the Tactics HD 2D remake, which they're totally coming. Anyway, let's go ahead and read the quote. It says, "Gaming journalist and insider Jeff Grubb has reiterated claims that Final Fantasy IX Remake is in active development, though he did say that the remake of 9 cannot compare to the scale of the 7 remake. And he says that a better analogy would be the difference between Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core and the Final Fantasy VII Remake. He then went on to say that it will still use the ATB turn-based system, and the classic game will not change drastically, but it will still feel good, and it is not a simple HD remaster." So don't think that this is like that Steam remaster. Basically, I do think that it's going to add things like speed up. It might give maybe a new polished translation. Maybe we'll get like a new party member. Beatrix might join. You never know. Maybe some rebalancing, things like that. So thankfully, it's not going to be action. It's not going to be sold into 4 different parts. I know. But it's just going to be one game done nicely, and I personally cannot wait for it. 9 was one of my absolute favorites in the entire series. Kuro no Kiseki localization news coming as soon as possible. Falcom hopes. You really gotta give it to Nisa. They have had their nose to the grindstone lately, and they have been pushing out these Trails games, these massive games. A lot of them have more text than like novels, and they've been pushing them out at a frenetic pace. They really have, and I really am very proud of them. So if you recall, like, it still is a long time between the releases, but Now that we've gotten so many of the ones that we didn't get in the first place out of the way, NISA is able to focus more on the games that we don't have yet. So what I'm saying here is that in the last year alone, we've gotten Trails of Zero, we've gotten Trails of Azure, and we've gotten Trails of Reverie. And we're also getting Nayuta Boundless Trails. So Zero, Azure, and Endless Trails weren't actually released here, you know, whenever they were released on the PSP. They were released back in like 2012-ish over on the PSP. But they've gone and they've localized 4 frickin' Trails games in 1 year. So if they can do 4 in 1 year, and then they're all caught up, just imagine how quickly they'll be able to do Kuro no Kiseki. We'll probably get that and maybe its sequel next year. That's only 2 games. Within a matter of years, we might actually be completely caught up to Japan. Like, they're going at such a breakneck speed, and I am so happy about this, because one thing that is hard for me personally is to have such a gap between releases. Like, it was like 5 years since Cold Steel 4 came out, and now we're getting Reverie. And I think that it's going to be coming much, much, much quicker, and I am very happy about that now. And now, in our final story of the day, the death of 2D Zelda. I am pissed. This is so hard for me to report. It says Nintendo is not too concerned with classic Zelda titles. It is difficult to say if they will revisit that style. Let me just read the quote. It's difficult to say anything about the future. That being said, thanks to previous Zelda games, a game like Tears of the Kingdom now exists. This game originated from the ideas that we had in the past. We always try to create something that offers more than the previous titles. In that respect, we really aren't concerned with our older games anymore. We prefer to look to the future. Ugh. So I've said before, and I'll say it again. I don't do 3D games. It is extraordinarily hard for me to play a 3D game. What I mean by that isn't something like Dragon Quest VIII or Dragon Quest XI or even something like Xenoblade. I can play those. There is very, very minimal platforming there. I can play those. They're fine. Other games such as Mario Sunshine or Mario 64 or Zelda Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask, Skyward Sword, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, those... No, I can't. I'm sorry. I can't. I've tried. Believe me, if there's one thing that I've done over the past 20 plus years, it is try to play these games of my childhood. And I can't. I cannot. And if you don't believe me, you should see me on Twitch, because holy hell, like, I tried. It was horrible. It was so bad. It was so bad. I grew up with the very first Zelda. I got the very first Zelda whenever I was probably 5 years old. Maybe I was 6. I don't know. But I got it for the NES, and then I even got Zelda 2, Link's Adventure, which I enjoyed. Loved Link to the Past on the SNES. I played Link's Awakening on the Game Boy, like, all the time. That was one of my road trip games. I loved it. I loved Oracle of Agents, Oracle of Seasons, Minish Cap, A Link Between Worlds. Like, those are my bread and butter. Those are my Zeldas. Those are the ones that I love. But these other ones, I can't play them. And to me, this is basically Nintendo saying, you know, sorry, kid, you're screwed, you're shit out of luck, and, you know, get with the times. But I can't. Like, I just can't. And this sucks because this was one of my childhood franchises, one of my childhood favorite series, and I'm just left in the dust, and I will not be able to play it any longer. And it's horrible. Like, I personally was hoping for an Oracle of Ages Seasons, you know, package remake or something. I thought that would be really freaking cool. But if they're not concerned with their older games anymore, then where does that leave me? Where does that leave thousands of others? And where does that leave their classic games? It just leaves them in the dust and they're dead. And that's unfortunate. But this is our last story of the day, and I do want to know what y'all think about the Zelda news in particular, as well as all the other news stories that I covered today. Let me know what you think about all this, and as always, have a good day.